What's going on, world? It's your man Chuck Creekmer, aka Jigsaw, and once again we have with us the one and only Grandmaster Jay of the NFAC.
Up in the building. I'm up in the building.
You up in the building again, man. Again.
You know, it's ironic that I'm up in the building again. What's going on, Chuck? What's going on, all hip hop? What's going on, people? But this is the part where I get to say I told you so.
Okay.
And a year later.
Yes.
I told you so. When everybody else said, you know, we were crazy, we was over the top, that we was making stuff up. Anybody who follows allhiphop.com remembers that I gave one interview to one media outlet the very next day after we came back from Brunswick, after we had just physically left the place. The truck was still in the driveway. The video didn't make sense. And we knew there was more to it.
Yeah.
Then you were the first ones we gave the interview to, and I remember what you said. You said, "Well, this would be the turning point in incidents like that if these people were even charged. We were not convicted, but charged."
Right.
So yes, I'm not one to say I told you so, but a lot of people, and I'm not, I'm gonna keep it honest on your show. A lot of people have come to me and said, thank you. Because if it wasn't for you and a handful of y'all that broke quarantine, remember we were in quarantine then. Everybody said people want to act like we wasn't in quarantine.
Yeah,
we were all locked down, and we were seeing these things in our house while we was locked down under pressure with the mask on, didn't trust the person. Y'all remember how it was? If somebody went, everybody, whoa.
Right.
That's where we was at that time. So for us to break quarantine, this thing was already 2 months old. When we found out about it, it was already 60 days old, and it was business as usual. But then when we saw the tape, that was the last straw.
That was it.
That was it. And a lot of people have called. They said, don't get mad at me for repeating what other people have said. But when people called me and said, we know who the brothers and sisters was that went down there and said, hey, what about this? Okay, and did it in such a fashion that it got the attention that everybody who touched it, has, there's been some type of legal retribution, but a lot of people don't realize that also was the moment that galvanized the start of our movement. It was from Brunswick that the NFAC blew up, and then the next time you saw us was at Stone Mountain. A lot of people act like we popped up at Stone Mountain. No, we was in Brunswick first.
Right.
It was the Brunswick issue first, but a lot of people, it kind of went under the radar with them, but it didn't get past us. So how do I feel? I feel great.
Good.
I feel great because, like I said before, Brunswick was not about the police.
Right.
Even though they were mixed up in this. This wasn't about the judicial system. This wasn't even at their level yet. This was about just regular, ordinary white folks. Killing regular, ordinary black folks. In the street, in broad daylight. And nothing happened. That was some 1920s, 1940s. No, okay, listen, let's just be honest. Yeah, we know there's some places in this country where things haven't really kept up with the current time. They're catching up, right?
Yeah.
But some things we just could not let come back, and that was just over the top for us. So I believe that because of the focus that a lot of people put on that case in the beginning, and they didn't talk about it in the trial at all. Did you notice throughout the whole trial, they never mentioned the armed blacks that came into the neighborhood and walked the route and went to the scene where it happened and realized all of these houses and somebody out here knows something.
Right. Definitely not.
They've never mentioned that in the trial at all. But the sentiment of the people was that they had already protested, and they had already, indicated something needed to be done.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
Otherwise, these brothers and sisters that came down here with these legal weapons, they are going to come back, and nobody wanted that.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted that. So what I said is, yes, I feel great to see that this case ended the way it did, because that's exactly what should have happened.
Yeah. Well, first of all, rest in peace, Ahmaud Arbery, because he is sort of the catalyst for the movement that you started. But also just to know that we were able to get something that resembled justice out of that situation. And you were definitely the first person that came to mind. The NFAC certainly came to mind because on a national scale, and particularly among Black people, we didn't really know that case to the extent. And certainly that mobilization was unique, to say the least.
You know, I have to shout out some people a year later that were involved in that. Most people remember the NFAC was the name that came out of it, but there were some other entities that were a part of that. A.J. Frazier and PANSOC was deeply involved in it. There were members of the Black Panther Party, the new Black Panther Party, that were involved in it, even if it was just one or two of them. The idea at the time was not to protest. It was nothing like that. It was actually, and it's sad to say what it was actually to provide security for Ahmaud's mother, because she wanted to visit the site. But they didn't bring this up in the trial either. That was not exactly the most hospitable neighborhood to people of our persuasion, so to speak. I don't care how they try to portray it on TV. When you pulled into that little cul-de-sac, all you saw was big old Trump signs and Trump billboards and Trump signs in the yard, Trump flags waving in the wind. I'm not making this up. But we knew right off the bat, we thought this is this neighborhood is a conservative, retirees type. They doing their thing back here, don't want to be bothered by nobody. I can understand that. But we knew that, but that was not portrayed, as the atmosphere that this happened in. So I would say that yes, Ahmaud was the straw that broke the camel's back, but there were other straws breaking at that time. There was a lot going on at that time. A lot of people must realize that it wasn't just Ahmaud. Ahmaud was going on at the same time, but remember, his story was already 60 days old. It wasn't like it just happened. It was that we just found out about it. And I don't know why they thought, when the dude released the video, I told you, once we saw the video, it was like, whoa, run that back again. And we looked at it again. And if you remember in the beginning, they tried to portray the father as a police officer.
Absolutely.
It never was mentioned again. They never mentioned that ever again, because it boiled down to what it really was. Vigilante justice based on skin color, based on false stereotypes and misperceptions that they've always held about Black people in the South. They did what they did to him because they thought they could get away with it, because they actually believed. They believe. You got to understand something that's dangerous about racism. So when you tell somebody you're a racist, you're not just accusing them of something that this is a person who holds a certain frame of mind. They believe they're right.
Absolutely.
And they thought they were right, and they were wrong.
Am I right in saying that the driver is the one that released the tape? Is that accurate? And am I right on that? He's the one that released it? Yeah. So
there's other pieces to that they didn't talk about. Not only did he release the tape, Chuck, but he released the tape 60 days ago. The DA had the tape.
Right. Wow.
That's why everybody was dirty. Okay, let me back up. Let me say this on your show. People need to understand that, and this is my approach to racism. Systemic racism. That's why it's called systemic. It means that there's a system. It's not just one or two people. Yeah, you got those three people, and they got locked up. Okay, fine. But there's a system. In other words, look at the system that had to work for this not to be heard. You had the police force that was involved. You had the judicial system that was involved. You had the local media that was involved. And then you even had the neighbors who had the mindset that they didn't think that nothing crazy had happened. That's a system.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's when we say we're up. So what happened was the entire system fell under the spotlight. And that's why everybody started getting locked up left and right. When they went after the DA Johnson, when they went after the DA, we was like, yeah, they know that this whole thing stinks. Not just. And so what we did was we brought attention to the system.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Yes. This was not the first African-American male or female that has been shot, killed because of some racial misperception. We know that. The difference was, one, it was caught on tape. The actual killing was caught on tape. And the tape was released by one of the people who was actually involved in it, but then realized that it's amazing to me that when people realize how serious something really is, all of a sudden everybody's story changed. But before then, you was all down for it.
Right. Definitely.
So that's all I like I said before, I believe that he was the catalyst for this. There were a lot of other groups that were involved on that day, and we went down to provide security. But there was a subgroup of us that wanted to go to the neighborhood.
Right.
We didn't just want to, yeah, okay, yes, ma'am. You okay, yes, you're safe. She went release the balloons. We did all that. But then we left them.
Right.
We want to go down here. We want to go pay them a visit and let them know that all Black folks, number one, are not the same. There's all different types of Black folks in this country. Some of them may be old-fashioned. Some of them are new school and cutting edge. But you don't think that we're all the same, because if you did, you never would have done something like that. You never would have let the video get out, thinking that the way the world is connected today with technology, stuff gets out just like that. It's around the world. And that's exactly what happened with the Ahmaud situation. That's what happened with the NFAC situation. It happened on a world stage. So, of course, it took on we were all glued to the internet because we were quarantined, not just America.
True.
The whole world was in the house. So every time I did Facts Over Feelings or the Morning Mental, I knew I was speaking to a captive audience. And when those things started happening and I started addressing them and I said, we need to come out and do something about it, I wasn't the only one that felt that way.
No, definitely not.
And the rest is history.